Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay away. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time.
Okay, how is everybody? Hello, Francis. Hey, Jude. Let me reflect. Lackadaisical. Yala. Aaron, Eva, Tammie, Lou Colfax. Let me be frank with you. Hello, everybody. So, wow, what a stunning turn of events. Karen Reed wants to add a juror. Isn't it amazing? A juror that got thrown off of her case. She was a alternate. She wants to add her as a lawyer. And I'm going to talk about some suspicious coincidences between this lawyer and Karen Reed's defense team, and go through what is a pretty stunning motion to dismiss that Judge Cannoni denied, that goes through the whole history of how this lawyer, who's also a juror, got dismissed off of Karen Reed's case. So that is what is on the agenda for today. But before I get into the issues with this lawyer juror, I want to just briefly go over what I thought was a hilarious part of Tuesday's hearing, where Alan Jackson asked Judge Cannoni during the voir dire if, when they're getting, so for the sidebar conferences with the all team of lawyers and the judge, Karen Reed has a right to be there, but could she just listen in with an earpiece because he doesn't want his client to intimidate the jurors. Essentially, what I got from this was that he knows that his client has an uncontrollable face, is not very likable up close, and he doesn't want her to scare the potential jurors. So he wants an earbud. So I thought we'd have some fun listening to this first before we get into anything else.
The voir dire process, as well as during the trial, I wanted to ask the court if there was a mechanism by which Ms. Reed could have at counsel table some sort of an earpiece or headphones or something that's slaved to a microphone up at the bench at sidebar so that she can listen in on.
Could we just have her? Could we meet in judge's chamber, and can we just get a glass for Karen Reed to put up to the door of the judge's chamber so she can listen in? Is that possible, Your Honor?
It's very. I want to avoid that if possible. It's clunky. Especially during the voir dire process. I think it would be uncomfortable, and quite frankly, I think it would be a little inappropriate to have jurors with Ms. Reed standing right there with them and with us.
It's done all the time.
It makes that all the time. But
Could we just have like a glass bubble? Like The Boy in the Bubble, the John Travolta movie. Could we just have our client in a bubble and wheeled to the sidebar, please? Like an animal in the zoo. I mean,
Something you're choosing not, but she has every right to be there at sidebar. So you say you don't want that, you want accommodation. I don't know if we can do it without that.
we know she has a right to be there, Your Honor. That's the issue. It's our client's unfortunate personality, as Roberta Glass's mother would call it. It's our client's unfortunate personality. That's the issue here. We want her as far away. Can we get her on the other side of the buffer zone, by the way, which got increased? I don't even know if it's enough. Frankly, I want these free Karen readers and anti-Karen readers in Altoona. I don't know if this buffer zone is enough. We'll take a look at it in a minute. But yeah, can we have her on the other side of the buffer zone? And can we just use a megaphone to yell out to her?
we could. Well, one of the things that we were talking about is potentially a closed circuit wireless microphone up the bench and a set of headphones here that she can listen to.
Put it on in writing. I would like to have had it before today. We're going to be moving around courtrooms. They may not be able to have it.
Okay.
We may not be able to have it. So this is also another irony. Maestro says, can they give her cans on a string? Right, exactly. It's just so absurd. So they asked for this courtroom. The other larger courtroom is much more adept, is my understanding, for electronics. And they can barely squeeze in there with her huge herd of lawyers as it is. Now she wants to bring in audio equipment. I don't know how big it is. I mean, some things can be very small, some can be very big and inconspicuous. But they're going to bring in another element. And if you've talked to people who do trial presentations, the one thing that they all say is that it all goes south very quickly when you're in court. So things work perfectly when court is not in session, and as soon as court is in session and you're on the record, technology tends to take a dive. So that's why they bring like second and third backup. So this is just
So
ridiculous.
the alternative is she can come to sidebar, or any sidebar discussion, impanelment, whatever. It's her absolute right. If she chooses not to do so, I'm going to need you to tell me that.
I'll put something in writing, and perhaps I've got the plan in the back of my head. I'll put it in writing. And
We have a lot of different equipment that we need to make sure has.
Yeah, can we have her wheeled in like Silence of the Lambs with a mask? Can we have her wheeled into sidebar? So it reminded me of, I mean, they know what their client is a psychopath. They know. And it really came to light after the ID Discovery TV show. More people are saying, wow, is she unlikable? Wow. I never really warmed to her before this, but wow, did she do a number on herself, opening her mouth in this ID Discovery doc. I mean, does everybody remember the beginning of that documentary? I'm worried that people are going to look at my answer when I deny hitting John O'Keefe with my car and look for signs of deception. That seems normal, doesn't it? What a normal, innocent, honest person would do. Say that I'm telling the truth, but I'm afraid I'm leaking signs of deception. With my blink rate, with my sincerity, she says, I can't make it sincere enough. She knows she's not a great liar. And I wouldn't think she would take the stand, but the more that this is coming closer to trial, starting Tuesday, we pick jury, I'm starting to wonder if her legal team is desperate enough and will be put in such a position with these ARCA witnesses after cross-examination with Hank Brennan, if he really does a number on them, that Karen Reed has to take the stand. That it will be like a Hail Mary pass. That's what I'm thinking about. Let me know what you think. If you asked me before a couple of days ago, I would say she'll never take the stand, ever. It really is an unwise thing to do. She's a terrible liar. You don't want to be cross-examined by Hank Brennan and go through all your lies. But if she doesn't have much, what does she have? She has ARCA. She has Marie Russell, Lucky Loughran, and an FBI agent. I know I'm this new ex-FBI agent, who I assume is another ex-FBI innocence fraudster. I mean, there's so many of them already. Hired gun for the defense. I mean, what does she have, really? So we'll see if the Commonwealth puts on a devastating case or starts just tearing apart their witnesses and they have nothing. Will she take the stand? So my question isn't, will she take the stand as a plan A? My question to my audience is, will she take the stand as a plan B in total desperation if the Commonwealth has the momentum? They have the momentum going into trial, but as we've seen, momentum can change and shift very quickly. And the most important thing is what happens next week is the picking of the jurors. And this episode will prove to you more than any other why it's so important, the picking of the jurors in this case, because if one turtle rider gets on, that's it. It doesn't matter how strong the evidence is against her. You have either an acquittal or a hung jury at best. So I'm sure Hank Brennan is aware that voir dire next week is going to be of the utmost importance. Let's get into this juror. Victoria George wants to dismiss juror from last trial. Now Karen Reed wants to take her as a lawyer. She's unemployed. Something happened with her last job, don't know. But now she's being submitted under Yannetti's law firm. So is Yannetti hiring her just for this trial? Or is he hiring her permanently? Let's take a look at WCVB, their news story on it.
Yeah, Jessica, a bizarre twist indeed. This was one of the alternate jurors who served during Karen Reed's first murder trial for the death of John O'Keefe. Her name is Victoria B. George, and her biography on the website of the State Bar Association says she attended Northeastern Law School. Since becoming a lawyer, she has handled mainly...
Keep that in mind, okay? Because keep that in mind. Keep that Northeastern Law School in mind.
Civil employment cases. There's no mention of any criminal law experience. However, legal analyst Martha Coakley says George could...
Why would she want a lawyer who hasn't had a long work experience, is essentially hasn't kept a steady job for too long since leaving law school. That's what it looked like to me. Why would she want a lawyer with no criminal, such a newbie lawyer with no criminal law experience?
Serve a useful role for Reed's defense.
And I'm sure that she can give them some good guidance as a jury consultant might as to how the questions appeared, what the process was like, what her own thought process was like.
Now, during that first trial, after the testimony was completed, George was chosen at random to be an alternate juror. And when the court clerk called her number, she seemed visibly frustrated to have to leave the jury box. She did not participate in any of the deliberations that ended in a hung jury and a mistrial. Now, unlike Reed's out-of-state attorneys from...
How did she even get in the pool to be an alternate? And how many turtle riders were on this jury? My suspicion is that she was a turtle rider even before she got on the jury. Or, I mean, you cannot not know about this case in Massachusetts. And you'll see when, I've read it before, but you'll see when she's confronted with her misdeeds, she acts in a very criminally savvy manner.
California and New York, George is licensed here in Massachusetts, so she does not need any special permission from the judge to join Reed's defense team. Live in Dedham, David Bieniek, WCVB News Center 5.
All right, David, before you...
But does she need to be approved by the judge, right? Doesn't she need to be approved by the judge? The judge's going to let a former juror on her defense team at the last minute? Really? I mean, people have speculated, at least they were on X, that this was Karen Reed's way of getting publicity. It's just a PR stunt. I'm not sure it is. She's gotten all sorts of, I don't know, attention-seeking people who like to involve themselves in high-profile trials. So Robert Alessi, who's a New York lawyer, his daughter's a turtle rider. He's now working pro bono on her case. Microdots. Richie Keough was in the war room again. I mean, I would consider Turtle Boy another wing of her defense. And they mostly play this out in the court of public opinion. Is this another way to play it out in the court of public opinion? Curious what your thoughts are on it, but here's an interesting association. So we have Victoria George. She's from Northeastern. Let me just remove this. So these two things, hold on. So my computer, hopefully it won't freeze again, but let me show you. So do you all remember Ian Henshey, who is on David Yannetti's, he's a lawyer practicing in David Yannetti's law firm. In the early hearings, he was always at the table with Karen Reed. So here he is. And he attended Northeastern University School of Law. And she seems like she graduated in 2020. Beginning in 2019, Ian started drafting substantive motions, including motions to dismiss, motions to suppress, motions in limine, and discovery motions for both Attorney Yannetti and Attorney Johnson. That's the other attorney who works at the Yannetti law firm, for their cases in district court after completing an initial summer internship. So that would be 2009. So it seems like they graduated, 2020, around the same time that this dismissed juror did. So either they didn't know each other, And Northeastern there's the Innocence Project is connected. The New England Innocence Project, my memory is, am I right about this? Hold on, before I open my big mouth and make a mistake again. I don't want to have to make another correction. Please hold. Is the Northeastern University, I thought it was connected with the New England Innocence Project, but I may be wrong. That they had a clinic at Northeastern, but am I wrong? I may be wrong. There's David, there's Dan. Okay, there's some connections, which is Daniel Medwood, which is a whole nother, but he's one of the first people who got involved. Karen Reed, of course, said that any donations that she gets that won't be used will go to the New England Innocence Project. But yeah, no, I'm wrong. Okay. But it did honor the Innocence Project in 2019. So are they indoctrinating their students into innocence fraud? That's what I'm wondering at Northeastern. And so that she would quickly be a Karen Reed supporter, just to want to see the defense win, just be very defense friendly right off the bat. That could be too. So and then you go to Victoria George. Massachusetts Bar Association member Victoria George joined Boston Labor. She counsels employees. She got this job in 2022. She's no longer working there. George counsels employers on workplace discrimination, harassment, leave laws, workplace accommodations, wage and hour matters, and defends against related claims. So she was a employment law. She went into that. And she was hired by Morgan, Brown, and Joy. And she served as a law clerk to the firm while attending Northeastern School of Law. So she's a little bit behind, actually, right? It's about 2000, but it's still in the same ballpark, 2022. I don't know. Did they cross paths? Did she reach out to him? Did she reach out to the Yannetti firm earlier? Is there a connection? I don't know. She's a little bit younger than Henshey. Curious. I'm just curious what this is all about. But getting into... She got her... So she was licensed. She acquired her license in 2021. So she graduated in 2000. This is where I got the 2020. 2020. She graduated law school in 2020 and got her license in 2021. That would be timely. No, that would be about normal, I would think. No? All right. So let me get into this filing. One minute, please. Okay, here we go. Oh, I have it open. Okay, so here's the background. During the trial, so this is the Judge Cannoni struck down Karen Reed's Hail Mary pass, which was to dismiss on gross violations, including jury tampering. So as I think anybody who hears this, I think the logical place to go was there jury tampering in the first trial? So as people like me are having rational questions about possible jury tampering in the first trial, the defense is accusing the Commonwealth of tampering with the jury. So during trial, 2 issues arose with jurors. The first occurred on June 14, 2024, when one juror, Juror A, so this is Victoria George, Juror A, just remember that, reported to the court that another juror, Juror B, had made some comments about the evidence and the defendant. And the court has admitted identifying information. The court called Juror B to a sidebar and questioned her about what she had said, and if she could keep an open mind and consider the evidence in a fair and impartial manner. During her representations that she could, the defense expressed concern that the comments had been one-sided and against the defense. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, I remember Turtle Riders complaining about one juror on the jury who made faces and seemed like she didn't like Karen Reed. And the only person that heard her comments was Juror A, and I find that curious. Juror A stated that Juror B had made comments to her about the defendant's facial expressions during the trial. The court then questioned 2 other jurors whom Juror A said were sitting close by when Juror B made the comments. Both jurors stated that they had not heard what Juror B said directly, but Juror A had mentioned it to them. So Juror A is going around saying, hey, that Juror B doesn't like Karen Reed, and she's talking about the case. Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Then the court then called back Juror B, who denied making any negative comments about the defendant. She's like, what? I didn't make any comments. What? After questioning the jurors, the court consulted with counsel. The Commonwealth expressed that if the court struck Juror B, then it should strike Juror A. The defense disagreed as to Juror A. They're like, no, we only want the anti-Karen Reed person going. The snitch, if it was a snitch, if she heard anything, the one who's working to eliminate any jurors who seem to be swayed by the Commonwealth case, we want to keep that juror. The court ultimately decided to dismiss just Juror B from the jury. On June 25th, 2024, just before closing arguments were scheduled to take place, the court received information from court security about another issue involving Juror A. A member of the Massachusetts State Police had contacted court security and said that he received information that a juror thought to be Juror A was at one of the local posts for the American Legion talking about the case, and that there may be a recording of her doing so. At roll call for the Denton police on the morning of June 25th, 2024, a number of officers confirmed that they had heard similar things about the juror. The court called a sidebar to discuss this new information with attorneys. Defense counsel asked for the name of the Massachusetts State Police officer who had received the information, and a court officer stated that it was Lieutenant Fanning. Fanning is a supervisor in the Norfolk County Detective Unit. During the investigation into O'Keefe's death, he was Proctor's supervisor. He was also one of the recipients of a group text circulated by Proctor that included references to looking for nudes. See, this is where the judge, he didn't say he was looking. He just said no nudes. Didn't say he was looking for them. He hadn't come across them. Wasn't looking for them. Wasn't searching for them. He just hadn't come across them. I think there's a difference Call me crazy, but I think there's a difference in actively searching for something and not coming across something by chance on the defendant's cell phone, as well as a reference to defense counsel's, quote, retarded client's phone, unquote. Defendant Exhibit Q. Defense counsel represents, and for purposes of this motion, the court accepts that Fanning also interviewed some witnesses in this case. Fanning was not himself a witness at the trial. So they're saying that Fanning had tampered with the jury. Lieutenant Fanning. That's what the defense has argued in their motion. After explaining and hence had juror tampering. After explaining to the attorneys the situation, the court called juror A to sidebar. The following exchange occurred. So this is Victoria George. It has been brought to my attention that you might have been out recently at an American Legion or a Knight of Columbus or someplace like that in Denham, and that someone has reported that you may have been recorded talking about this case. That's the information I received. What can you tell me about any of that? So that's a great open-ended question. What can you tell me about any of that? And the juror immediately clams down and says, I don't know. But if you hadn't been doing it, you would know, right? Have you been at an American Legion Hall? Like a month ago. Okay. At the time, were you at all talking about? Not that I remember, no. Do you remember if people there mentioned to you anything like about this case? The juror. I was drinking. I don't remember. The court. Okay. The further information I have is that this morning, several Denham police officers said that they heard the same thing. Juror. Okay. The court. All right. Could it have happened? I don't know. Okay. I really don't know. The court asked the juror to step aside and then discuss the matter with the attorneys. The Commonwealth expressed concern that the juror had been involved in the previous issue and requested that the juror be excused. The defense objected, arguing that the previous incident was unrelated. Like, no, we don't want to get rid of that juror. So what I'm asking myself reading this, and call me conspiracy minded, was this someone that just had some relationship with Karen Reed's defense team before this, by chance got on the jury, and then was like a mole for Karen Reed's defense team? Is that wild? Is that crazy? Luke Holdfax says, what a grave injustice it will be if Karen gets acquitted or if it's a hung jury. Also, not feeling confident that there won't be at least one free Karen Reed juror. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've had the same worry, Lou. I have the same worry. Lackadaisical, I'm feeling like I'm living in an alternate universe. Yeah, isn't it odd? I mean, isn't this odd that all this is allowed to go on? This woman should have never been a juror. How she was even picked as an alternate. I guess she's a good liar. It's a publicity stunt for Karen Reed. I'll allow it. Who said that? That's the funniest thing ever. That's Judge Canoni's. I'll allow it. And you're all set. Those are two of her big phrases. Sounds fishy, says Claudia. Let me reflect says yes. But hi, Modello. Hi, Mary. Anyone else think this is odd? Let me get to the bottom. Yes. Okay, everybody says yes. Kitty says yes. You are conspiracy minded. Stop. So let me reflect says stop. Okay, I'll stop. It's crazy. I'm going in a crazy direction. All right. All right. All right. I don't know. I don't put anything past this defense team. Let Me Reflect says, breaking news, court ordered Turtle Boy and Karen Reed to appear in court as soon as possible. Woohoo! All right, let me finish this up and I'll check that out. Wonder what that's about. I had heard a report that finally Turtle Boy was making faces behind Hank Brennan, and he was arguing beautifully as third-party culprit. Against the defense allowing a third-party culprit strategy, or opening on it at least. I think the judge is going to rule exactly the same way she ruled last trial. That they can't open on it, but they'll open on it anyway, as they always do. Okay, here, Maestro says, Reed, Kearney, and Hank Brennan headed in court for showdown over Kearney's phones. D says, no, Roberta. D says, you are not crazy at all. That's a very appropriate theory. So, yes, I heard Turtle Boy was reprimanded. Finally. I mean, this has been going on. It's always seems like too little, too late. And the judge is playing catch up in this case, but okay. I'm happy it happened. I don't want to be too sour about it. I feel frustrated because I wish Judge Cannoni had more control over a courtroom. The court asked the juror to step aside and then discuss the matter with attorneys. The defense says, no way, we want to keep her. The defense responded that the court should consider that no other juror had been affected. This is the defense's argument. And the source of the information was a Massachusetts state police officer. So more hatred for the police comes in from the defense. You can't trust the police officer. Therefore, a discussion about Lieutenant Fanning ensued, with defense counsel suggesting that Fanning and the Massachusetts State Police may be targeting potential jurors for the purpose of trying to get them excluded from the jury. So here's where my mind goes again. Karen Reed always points the fingers, her defense team, at what she's doing herself. So at the time that they're accusing the police of targeting potential juries for the purpose of trying to get them excluded from the jury, which sounds exactly what happened with what happened with juror B. The court allowed defense counsel to make its arguments about the court and why it should not dismiss the juror. And so this is curious. So ADA attorney, Assistant District Attorney Laura McLaughlin then explained to the court and to defense counsel that about Lieutenant Fanning's role. That she says Lieutenant Fanning is the commander of the extensive security operations that this case has required. What occurred is he received the information. He did not investigate. He had no evidence of any crime. If he did investigate or reached out to anyone, that could have been considered an improper influence on a jury. What he did is reported it to the chief of the trial court security to make the trial court aware, as it is simply a trial court issue. And so when the defense submitted their motion to dismiss, they presented an edited transcript of what A.D. McLaughlin had said so that it favored their argument. They edited out the part about his position. So the Commonwealth then made its argument regarding why the court should dismiss juror A. I believe there is credible evidence that this juror has had conversations about this case. She did not deny it. right? She just said, I don't know. That's me saying that. This sounds like Adam Lally argued this. I find that there has been a violation of the court order. Oh, this is Judge Cannoni, excuse me. I believe there is credible evidence that this juror has had conversations about this case. She did not deny it. I find there has been a violation of the court order for failure to report it on a repeated basis. Juror A had no problem reporting the other juror, but then at the time also did not tell us that she spoke to the 2 other jurors I inquired of. She told us they may have overheard, and then it was another juror identified by seat number who ultimately told us that this juror had reported to her what the other juror had said. So she's the only one saying that this other juror was speaking badly about Karen Reed. Isn't that curious? No one else heard it but this juror, and that juror actually denied ever saying anything negative. But her face was discussed. I remember that. There was one juror, maybe a different juror, and I may be wrong, but there was one juror who got dismissed. I remember who the Free Karen readers were like, whew, she was really making faces at Karen Reed's defense team. But I wouldn't be surprised if she remained as a juror if we did hear from somebody who was at the VFW that night after all of this. So for all those reasons, I'm going to excuse her from sitting on this juror. At this point, the sidebar conversation continued about Lieutenant Fanny. What I said was that, and this is Laura McLaughlin again, Lieutenant Fanny is the unit commander of the security operations, which I know from personal the past 3.5 months, that's his role. Attorney Little, for the jury, the court, hold on. A.D. McLaughlin, not for the jury, for trial support and security. And this is how the defense just edits that out and hands in a edited version of the sidebar to support their argument. And it's noted in here. In fact, here, this is where she's talking about it. Despite being specifically informed at sidebar that Fanning was not in charge of security for the jury, and without providing any evidence that Fanning ever interacted with any member of the jury, defense counsel repeatedly claims, without any evidentiary support, throughout their memorandum in support of the present motion, that Fanning was, quote, commander of jury security and in charge of jury security, and had access and control over the jury at first trial. Defendant memorandum, in fact, and as made clear to defense counsel at sidebar, Fanning was the commander of security operations during the trial and not in charge of the jury. So it goes down to this footnote. Defense counsel submitted an incomplete, not deceptively edited. Here's another euphemism from Cannoni. Defense counsel submitted an incomplete transcript of the June 25th, 2024 sidebar discussion, omitting the part where A.D. McLaughlin states in no uncertain terms that Lieutenant Fanny was the commander of security operations, not for the jury, but for trial support and security. Wild, right? So curious what you guys think. I'm going to take, well, looks like we got some super chats. Dean Walker, nice to see you. Dean Walker has the cutest grandbaby in the world. Hope you're well. Hope the grandbaby's well. Let me reflect. You're a conspiracy whisperer. I don't want to I want to keep a clear head. Let me reflect. I don't want to go there. But I find this stuff really odd. There's been so much dirty doings. Excuse me for going there. Manny says all of the free Karen Reeds are scrambling to get on the jury. I bet. What's the upshot? Can the family sue after? What's the recourse if it's, there's pretty much no recourse if there's dirty doings and she gets acquitted. You can't retry her again, no matter if she gets off on fraud. I mean, there may be doubtful, but repercussions for the defense team. But for Karen Reed, if she can get off by hook or crook or fraud, that's why there's a lot of incentive to cheat for defense attorneys. It seems like so many of them do. The family is suing civilly, Manny. And what's the recourse? So there's a civil suit, which has been put on hold till after Karen Reed's trial. What's the recourse if it's a hung jury or acquittal? You can't retry again. There's no double jeopardy. So if there's a hung jury, they can try again. But if there's an acquittal, they can't try again. Did I make myself clear? I hope so. Would you go on a Karen Reed podcast? I think that's what. Would you go on KR podcast? I think that's what she will do next. I love you. Keep it real. I've tried to keep it real. She'll go. She just was on a free Karen Reed podcast, Nanny, for a fundraiser, of course. Barb Nauman, Roberta, I enjoyed seeing you on Court TV. Do more of that. I will if they ask me. I'll go on any show. I don't get asked all that often. So, yeah, I'm happy to be a guest pretty much on any, I love to talk. I love to talk about these things. So, yeah, I'd be happy to be back if they ask me. Okay. Let's take a break, shall we? Let's take a palate cleanse. When we get back, let's see what's the news with Turtle Boy and Karen Reed when we get back. See if I can dig and find anything in the mellow break. Be back in 1 minute. Don't go anywhere.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact-focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard task warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy. Exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay. Here we go. So it looks like it's going to be in front of Aidan Carney's judge next week. So here we have other ex parte status report. Did you hear that blasting through my headphones? Report of Rule 17 respondent field and forward to Judge Sicily. Receipt, acknowledge, and status report to be shared with parties only, otherwise impounded provisionally until a hearing before the court. Thumb drive accompanying this report shall be impounded. So there's a thumb drive of communications between Karen Reed and Aidan Carney was saying, well, you know, it's on the Signal app, so they're not going to be, it's an encrypted app. So even if they do find our communications, they'll just be blank. Is that true? I mean, Maestro, do you know if that's true? I would assume the Commonwealth would have ways of getting into that, but they've been dealing with criminals, and Karen Reed and Aidan Carney can't be the first people to use encrypted apps. So that is very tantalizing. Just some stuff. Let me just go over just some, before I go, I'm going to keep it brief today, but from Christina Rex, let's look at her on Twitter and let's finish up about this juror. I would love to see if there's a public hearing. I hope there's another public hearing. And Karen Reed, has she played her hand? I mean, the last one she busted in like she was the FBI breaking up a mafia ring or something with her lawyers. It was such a PR exercise, ridiculous. Wait, let me just make sure. Okay. Here we go. Christina Rex says, this is the statement released to me by Victoria George, an alternate juror from Karen Reed's first trial. She is also an attorney and has given me permission to share this statement. I was a fair-minded juror who left this trial questioning the integrity of this system long before the defense filed a motion to dismiss with allegations of juror tampering. It is the Reed case itself and the fact that it is still being brought that has left many in Massachusetts wary, distrustful, and scared of our system. And left the Karen Reed non-supporters scared of our system, not because of the Commonwealth, because of these lying defense lawyers, criminal defense lawyers. As a lawyer, this reality saddens me even more because I remember how much faith I had in our justice system as an optimistic law student. Somehow I'm skeptical of this claim. Mr. Brennan made an impassioned argument today regarding his alleged concern that some might be questioning the fabric of our entire judicial system. I am, but not for the reasons Free Karen Reed people think. I mean, how much lying can you do through the court? You can edit sidebars. You can leak out information to bloggers like Aidan Carney and then write filings, your own filings as it's been reported as, so you can get just things that have no evidentiary support into the public record and the court record as if they have some validity, wild theories that you've thought up. If he truly would like to address that problem, just keep defrauding the court time after time. And only after a massive fraud that went on for months and months and months do you get a public admonishment. That's the punishment they get. A public admonishment and a promise that the judge will no longer tolerate any of the behavior she just admonished. And then there it is. The defense goes on and does the same behavior not an hour later. I mean, with no comment by the judge. I mean, what is going on with our judicial system? How many defense attorneys are acting like this? I mean, every American should be horrified. It makes our judicial system look like a kangaroo court. And every lawyer should be horrified by the way that these lawyers are, their behavior in their own profession, their own actions, in their own profession. They're literally, what they did with Arco was breaking the law. I mean, what's going on? I have a few suggestions. Perhaps the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office should be more focused on remedying the systematic issues plaguing it in affiliated police departments, rather than continuing to spend millions of taxpayer dollars prosecuting a case with so many evidentiary issues that it calls into question whether they are even following their ethical obligations as prosecutors. The Commonwealth has a duty to protect the rights of defendants, and I, for one, would love to see them do so. This to me sounds like she's personality disordered. What a narcissistic comment. That's what I get from it. New discovery from Hank Brennan, Commonwealth Notice and Co., Adam Lally and Laura McLaughlin. Copy of the transcript of William Reed and Janet Reed's interview with Ted Daniels. Copy of emails that he's getting. He's handing them in. I hope that the public is sending Hank Brennan ideas and showing him connections that he might not make or things that might be helpful in trial. Because the defense is getting all sorts of suggestions from the public and help from the public. I mean, if Victoria George, I'm sure she's not getting paid much of anything, is trying to make a name for herself on this case. So this is what these innocence fraud lawyers do. They get ideas from both sides and arguments. I mean, if you look at my opening where Karen Reed and Alan Jackson are saying, we don't know who did it. Right before that, Aidan Carney wrote a blog saying, we don't have to answer who did it. We're not detectives. And now they're making the same argument. Now they've gone back to knowing who did it, apparently. But for a short while, they were using Aidan Carney's argument. So I hope the public is including arguments, ideas, sending them to Attorney Brennan. Aaron Ever After says, the rap is epic. I'm glad you like it, Eva. Roberta Tunes are fabulous. Are you a Tupac Shakur fan? Not particular. I'm more a Digital Underground fan than a Tupac Shakur fan, although he was part of Digital Underground for a little bit. I'm old. I guess Tupac Shakur is old music too. Laxadaisical says, I'm old, but I keep hearing Peter, Paul, and Mary sing, when will we ever learn, right? Yeah, I know that song very well. Yeah. So that's what I have for today. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Please hit the like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. Share this episode. Support my work on Patreon. Buy me a cup of coffee. Shoot me a Venmo. And please leave me a comment. I do read. The comments were on fire from yesterday. I was so pleased to see so many of you listened all the way through. And I wasn't sure if it was the clearest episode I ever made. And I was pleased to see people understood, at least some of you understood what I was talking about. I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, Jen, Jen, like John, you were my mom. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my son.